guys, for this tutorial I'm going to go over all the pieces and the methods that I used for my most recent project, Rumble Battle. So like my other tutorials, setting up a plane with your art or your Midjourney is key, and then setting up a camera is also key. And you can bring in a camera just by clicking camera and camera. And by default, I like to zero everything out. Oops, not scale. And then with the camera, I like to attach the plane. So I'll show you what I did. So from the start, you're going to want a plane. Let's rotate up 90. Let's bring in a camera. Say cam A. We'll zero it out. And then you want to look at the space between the camera and the plane. The plane will act as the end of your scene or your environment. So it really depends on the scale of your scene. If you have a bunch of objects like this one, there's a deep scale. We know that we want the walker to be pretty far back. So we want to have some, large amount of space. And then your project settings, you want to set it to the image width and height. I'm just going to leave this at, let's just do 1280 square. And then with your plane selected, you want to scale it so it matches or it hits the matte boundary. And from there, you want to drag it underneath the camera. So any rotation that you do with the camera, the plane stays within the boundary. And this is good for setting up perspective. That's what I did with this one. You can see that the horizon is right here, and that matches the horizon with this. And then you want to bring in like a cube or something to give off perspective to the objects in your scene, because from there you can start adding in things like treads. That's what I did with this one. And really quickly, the tread is comprised of one cloner. I drew a curve to kind of mimic the tank of the tread, and you can do that with your spline. I think I just did cubic, and then you can just make sure it's closed too. And then with your cloner selected, you go to object, and then you want this as object. By default, it's linear. You don't want that. You want object, because you want to clone the tread along this curve. So with object selected, you drag tread circle to object, and then you drag whatever you want cloned underneath cloner. And then just for this one, I did the offset. Really quickly too, you want an even amount in your count, and then you want an even amount in offset, so you'll get a clean loop. So after I did that, I didn't set up another tread, because in your compositing package, you can just duplicate it over. It's kind of a messy way to do things, but it was all about speed. And then for the turret, I did a kind of a base just with using a cube. Working in silhouettes is the key to modeling. trying to accomplish this right from the start is not optimal. So you want to start with just kind of basic shapes. You know, you want to have an angle right there. So maybe drag this guy up. So it's already starting to take shape. And then from there, just keep adding really basic geo. And then for objects like this, where you want it to kind of cut, you want to do that with a Boolean. A majority of everything on this was through Booleans. It's an easy way to subtract from a piece of geo, and it makes it kind of organic, as in you can edit on the fly without, I guess, destroying your model per se. So I have this. I want this to subtract from that. You want to go to bool. Or rather, I want the cube to subtract from the cylinder. So you want your main object at the top, and then you want your subtracted element on the bottom. And what I like to do too is I like to group the subtracted, so you can bring in multiple. Oops. If you're ever out of whack and you don't have an orientation, hit S on the keyboard. It kind of frames it up. It's F in Maya, and I feel like Maya has a little bit better, well, it's just better to work with. So we have this cube. Let's add another one. Now, since this is grouped, you can hold down Control and click and then drag, and you can see it's creating some complex looking stuff without it really being complex. That's what a majority of all this was. And then what I like to do as well, you want to always have it centered. What I mean by centered is you want to have your object centered in the origins. So when you bring in objects like a cube or cylinder, they're automatic. They're in the center. They're at a 0, 0. Well, not in the y-axis anymore, but this is the 0, 0 origin. So in doing that, I like to use symmetry. So if you create something on this side, you don't have to model it on this side. You just put it in a symmetry node. It's also really, really fun to create kind of cool animations. So after that, I rendered the turret, and I rendered the tread. And then for this guy, I started building out legs. It looks kind of funky in this shot because it's not color corrected. But again, it's just really basic shapes. You know, we have a cylinder. It's not really UV mapped correctly because it's I don't think it was ultimately necessary. So you have things like the cylinder. Same with the Boolean setup. You just take one cylinder, you take another, and then you subtract it. You keep doing that. Then pistons, it's literally just cylinder and a cylinder. A lot of basic objects thrown together looks complex. You don't have to really model any other detail other than that, unless you really want to. And these, just really basic cubes. That's not UV mapped, but oh well. And then I animated these. I kind of wanted these to be like pistons. So I set up two groups, kind of the upper, because I wanted this to go when he steps down and kind of shakes the earth. I want it to kind of, or it's more suspension. Pistons are more engines, but yeah, this is more suspension. You'll see it goes up. And then when it goes up as well, it kind of, it's kind of loose to create for a more smoother ride with this guy. And to render these, you just want to render a PNG. Don't render that plane out. I just did a PNG, and then I did some render passes like ambient occlusion. And then after I did that, I brought it into After Effects. Oops. So originally I was going to do a Team A and Team B, kind of like they're firing at each other, but for the time being, it was just taking a little bit more time, and I wanted to get this out sooner than later. Let's close Cinema 4D. Let's do Team Left, and I'll give you a rundown of this this setup. It looks pretty complex because at first I wanted to create loops and have this looping, but I didn't really have enough time to really finesse it per se. So for the uppermost layers, I wanted kind of a reveal with the clouds. So what you can do with that is I just used my normal storm clouds that acted as the background layer, and I duplicated it and I put it on top of every other layer and just moved it in the Z-axis. But what I wanted it to do is I wanted it to kind of dissipate. And a really easy way to do that is to create a turbulent noise, and then just animate the offset or even the rotation. Just as long as you have blacks and then lighter luminance, it's going to work. So you want to hide it, and then in your layer that you want to have that effect, like dissipate, you want to select it, go to Effect, Transition, and then you want to go to Image Wipe. And then by default, it's going to look like this. You want to go to Gradient, and then select your turbulent noise, and then do Effects and Masks. If you don't do Effects and Masks, it's just going to do the source, which is a solid color, which will not work. So you want to do Effects and Masks, and then do Luminance, and then you can toggle between the completion. And that creates some nice kind of smooth, dissipated clouds. And then I'm going to go to the bottom. At first it had a blue background, and the more that I started animating this and kind of dialing it in, the less I wanted blue. I wanted it more kind of a more, I guess, prominent atmosphere, or like more, a little bit more moody. So I took in storm clouds, and then I made a 3D layer by clicking this, and just rotated it to kind of match the perspective. And at first I had buildings, but I didn't like those in the last part of it. So here's the machine gun fire. And this is created with particular. Just a pretty basic setup. It's pretty much the by default settings in here. I just tinkered with the life and then the particles per second. I have 0, it goes 0 to 10 particles per second, and it holds for a couple seconds and then goes back to 0. Otherwise, it's just going to keep emitting this amount of particles, and I wanted it kind of to break up a little bit. So in order to get this type of emission, you want to go to the Physics tab in Trapcode Particular. And you want to go to Air. I knew I wanted to blow this to travel left to right, so you want to add a pretty large value in the wind X. And then Z as well. And then I upped the physics time factor. So you don't have to really crank this a whole lot. You get a good kind of feel, and if it's slow, that's fine. You can basically multiply it by using the physics time factor. I'm pretty sure this just multiplies everything by the value that you put here. So I got the lasers. I masked out one of the ships from the original art. Show you this. And then I just had a bunch of other ships just occupying the airspace. I'm assuming they're maybe like soldier transportation ships. And then here I have the walker. And for the walker, here are the legs that I made in Cinema 4D. There's some masking issues, which I can solve by just doing this. So I have the legs, and then I brought in the ship. I knew that I wanted the ship to kind of be weighed down when he steps. So I just animated the position with this one. And since I have this guy animated, and he's a pre-comp, I just duplicated him a few times. And just to occupy kind of build more depth. Here's some more ships. Here's some shadows for the tanks. And here's some kind of like dust and fog, and that's just this is just using a solid and then masking it out and then applying a motion tile and turbulent displace to it. And then I added some debris and explosions right there. Added the tanks. And for the tanks, I put its orientation where the horizon is because I knew I wanted to scale them, kind of to make them look like they're kind of traveling at different speeds. And then here's some more machine gun fire. Here's some more fog. Some more explosions. More fog. More storm clouds. I did a handheld feel when this launches off. And then I also added a turbulent displace. I'll show you with and without, just to kind of give off the like heat. I feel like turbulent displace is pretty good at kind of achieving this effect. I think it's called like a actually, no, I don't know what it's called. I was gonna say moire effect, but that's with lines. It's more like the desert effect. There is a term for it, which I'm at a loss for, but it just kind of warps the environment with kind of a heat type of look. And then I added particles and more explosions, curves, and the storm clouds. For this guy, I'll show you what I did. Again, it's just using a solid with a mask and then applying trap code, shine, and then deep glow to it. So this is what it looks like without either of those effects. Just animated a mask of it going out. And then I knew I wanted to kind of pump it up with the glow. There's kind of a hard edge here. I didn't notice that at the final output. And then shine. And then with shine, you can add a fractal noise. That's what gives off that kind of lightsaber-y feel. And then you animate it along the X speed. I thought it added a cool little flare to this this beam of light. Okay, and once I had this ready, I wanted to export it for audio. So you do Control-Shift ? And then I just did ProRes. Don't save. Let's go to Premiere. I probably shouldn't have edited the audio in Premiere, but most likely Audition, but still did the trick. So a while back when I used to work in EDM, in the EDM world, I had a lot of sounds. I had a lot of a big library of just audio packs. And you can get that from Splice. What people don't know is you can use Splice for a lot of like Foley effects and cinematic effects. So I have a lot of kind of cinematic, kind of grungy, techno, a little bit of dubstep samples. So it's just kind of like a game of addition at this point. Like when you look at your piece, what kind of audio do you want? I want it kind of muffled. And then after this guy launches off, I kind of want it to cancel out all the other audio. So I'll play through it. Oops, didn't have desktop audio enabled. So I'll play through it right now. And I'll go sound by sound. So this is like a reversed kind of laser rumble. I knew I wanted to peak right as he was launched back. And this guy, I feel like he was a weird guy. What was he? So this is the original clip. And then what I did is I slowed it down. Use speed duration, and I did that at 64.6%. And then I also, oh no, I just slowed it down. Let's go to the bottom one. I think this guy was the weird one. Space boom. No, that's the same guy. Oh, it's the same one. I just slowed it down even more. So this one's at 44%. I'll show you those two together. Bottom one, I used more of like a drone. Haunted distance. Okay, let's move on. So I wanted a kind of riser. This wasn't particularly one I really liked, but I think it still worked. And I want it to cut right when he pulls back, just to emphasize and punctuate the loud sound. And then for these, you could barely hear them, but I kind of wanted just a little bit of impact for the debris. Oh no, they were they were these guys stomping. Kind of war drums too. I thought it was pretty cool. Let's go down here. So this is the machine gun. There's a little break before, like right here. It's kind of a little sputter. So I just cut out a little bit portion of it before all the crazies happen, and then I actually duplicate it. Just to increase that oomph. And then let's go down a bit. There's a lot of spaces open because I did have a lot of other effects that I ended up just deleting. So that's just wind. It's kind of another lead-in to the main blast. Thought it was really kind of like techie. And this is just kind of a nice like drone, one note, kind of like a mood establishing kind of music track. So these are for the debris, and I wanted the debris kind of be like you're in shell shock kind of situation, like, you know, you're over here, you experience all this, you know, they've already blasted before, so you're already kind of in shell shock. So let's just keep adding. So it's already sounding pretty cool. Let's just keep adding these. All right, let's add the big honking horn. And then I believe this is the last one. So all these audio samples are pretty much they're pretty much used for music production, but when you slow them down and you add things like reverb, let's see, I did a lot of distortion, pitch shifter, dehammer, delay, and reverb. These are pretty much the only ones that I've used for this type of work. You can do a lot of equalizers. I added a bunch of flangers, phasers. But I've always loved doing audio. I'm not super good at it, but I've always enjoyed it. All right, that about does it. So this artwork was submitted on my Discord by D Dios. I'm trying to do like a bi-monthly contest where people can submit art for animation, and I'm hoping to keep doing that. Thank you for watching, and looking forward to the next video with you guys.